Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It's Monday night, March 5th at 7 p.m. And we're in a regular business session tonight. And our first item of business is to establish a quorum. We do have 2 council members who are not able to be with us tonight. And our clerk of council is also away. So our next item of business will be to appoint an acting clerk. And if I could have a motion.
I motion that Butler is our acting clerk.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for appointing Councilmember Butler as the clerk. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You've been duly appointed. Thank you, Councilmember Butler. You always do a good job with this.
Thank you. Kind words.
Our next item of business is the disposition of minutes for the regular session that was held on February 19th, 2018. And could I have a motion for the
motion that we accept the regular session minutes?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for approval of the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the minutes have been approved. Next, we'll have communications. Are there council members who have communications to share? Okay, I will share. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Councilmember.
I just want to thank you. I have received a couple personal communications of people commenting that they really appreciate the potholes being filled. They know that it's still bumpy, but it's much better than it has been. So.
Good. Okay. And several council members did receive some communication from a local business person about the proposed vending sites that we discussed at last week's committee meeting. And so, duly noted. Okay, communications and reports from other elected officials. Law Director Elias. Okay. Mayor Patterson.
I have several tonight. The first one is a lane closure that will occur tomorrow, March 6th at 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be on West State Street, and it's West State Street heading westbound between North Lancaster and Schaefer. It's for a sewer lateral repair at Arts West. Having some trouble down that area. So a heads up on that. Free smoke detectors is another item that I've got that goes along with, change your clock, change your battery week. The City of Athens Fire Department has partnered with the local Lowe's store here in town and has gotten a number, I don't know the actual number, but has gotten quite a few smoke detectors that they will be giving away free at headquarters, which is on Columbus Road, as well as Station 2 on Richland Avenue. Again, come quickly, because once they're gone, they're gone. They will start handing them out Monday through Wednesday, March 12th through the 14th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they're giving them out to whomever needs them, not just Athens residents. So keep that in mind. Some other things, the Columbus Road bike path spur, where we had some river damage because of the river rechannelizing itself. And there was some scouring at the approach to the bridge itself, not the bridge. The bridge is fine. The bike path is fine. It's open, but we will have to do some repairs, and we're looking at repairs happening sometime in April. Our city engineer and assistant engineer have a plan for how they're going to do this, and it sounds like a good one, to armor the bank. So just wanting the public to be aware of that. Street sweeping is going to begin next week. It's going to be in the high density areas first, and then it'll start to expand out. Much needed, a lot of grit, a lot of leftover from the weather, snow events that we've had, as well as was mentioned, the nice letter that you got coincides with people who weren't too happy about the potholes, understandably so, but a lot of asphalt that has to be swept up. So that's coming next week. And Athens Beautification Day is April 22nd. Going into that whole week, though, from April 22nd on through the 27th is the citywide spring cleanup week. So we'll have a lot more information coming out on ways in which people can take advantage of spring cleaning in the city. The last item that I have, since this is Developmental Disabilities Month, And we had a parade on Court Street last week to celebrate that, to kick it off. I received a letter, not from a citizen. I received a letter from somebody who lives in Michigan, and I'd like to read it to council. I've been a big fan of, I have had a big United States map for a long time, and it's been there, and I noticed that there are a lot of cities in the U.S. that are named Athens. How did your city get this name? Why is it named Athens? I'm also a fan of the state of Ohio. Good for someone who lives in Michigan, right? And I'm giving you a ferry for your city. She will take care of it, and it will bring you luck. I am 38 years old, and I am a person living with autism, in case you're thinking I'm a little child. And I want to share, hopefully Ryan can zoom in on this. And I know anyone who's watching may not be able to see it, but on the ferry's shirt is the flag of Athens, in the middle of it. So I just wanted to share. This is one of those feel-good letters. I keep this on my desk. I'll likely frame the ferry, so if anybody wants to come and visit the Ferry of Athens, you can do so in my office. That's all I have for tonight.
That's great. That's nice to get letters like that. All right, we'll move on with ordinances for third reading. And our ordinances tonight, they were required by law to have 3 readings of the ordinances. On the third reading is when we take any final comments and also the vote. Second reading of ordinances, we pretty much mainly read the titles unless there's an amendment or a reason to suspend. And then our ordinances for first reading is where the council person introducing it offers background information, and we'll have heard it for the first time. So the first items up are ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 218, an ordinance closing East Union Street between Court and University Terrace on Saturday, April 7th, 2018 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the International Street Fair. And this is introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. I move to adopt ordinance 0-2-18.
Second.
And just a little history. As we remember, this ordinance was brought forward. It had to be tabled as we found that there was a conflict, and moved the International Street Fair from Court Street over to Union Street. When this happened, I thought back on the years that I've been up here, and also the additional year I sat in the peanut gallery here, and a lot of the street closures that we have on Court Street do have people that come forward that have problems with them. Just whether it's business or just not having your traffic flowing the way it's supposed to, and I think as we move forward, this is the year of the master plan that we're reworking, that we do keep Court Street in our minds, because it is our iconic street, and right now it's a hybrid. It kind of does a little bit of everything, moving traffic, being that business connector, being kind of part of what Athens is, and currently right now I think we could always do better. I don't know what the answers are, and I just want to continue the conversation, so thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of this ordinance. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 1618 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application to address non-point source stormwater pollution grant funds through the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and, if awarded, enter into a cooperative agreement with the Ohio EPA and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Nezzi. I would like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 16-18.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Fall. Quite simply, this authorizes and allows the mayor to submit this application. And in speaking with our Public Works Director, there's an indication that we'd likely be able to use this at Stimson Avenue. If we are awarded, the city does commit to a 40% match of the grant funds. And again, this is working with the United States Environmental Protection Agency on behalf of the City of Athens. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, the mayor has a comment.
Yes.
This is an example, as we mentioned, the Stimson Avenue improvement, which is the small cities grant that we received, that it's layering other granting mechanisms such as this on top of that to help, extend our dollars, in terms of the project itself. So again, if we're successful in getting this, we'll do some storm improvements, not too dissimilar from what is down on West Union across from, well, right by the depot, where we did some storm mitigation elements that are in that area. So this will be similar to that. And again, this is one way of stitching together various granting mechanisms to bring in a lot of features that we might not otherwise be able to afford.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, and thank you to the mayor for helping offer that extra information. And if we can kindly remind viewers in TV land, Stimson Avenue is slated to be addressed and worked on 2020. Thank you, 2020. Thank you. Councilmember Katsas.
Do I need to abstain from this one? This is once again Stimson Avenue.
Well, there's not a recognition of Stimson Avenue in the...
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
This is just simply authorizing me to apply.
Okay.
And so when we get more specific, I think, with a particular piece of legislation that might move forward that identifies Stimson Avenue,
Okay.
if that's the case,
I got it.
then that would be the time.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So we have motion and second for approval of this ordinance. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. And now I'll read through a series of ordinances for second reading, so you'll just hear the numbers and the titles of them. Ordinance 2018 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into an LPA state project agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for a bridge deck overlay on US 33 and declaring an emergency. It's introduced by Councilmember Katsas. Ordinance 2118 is an ordinance closing a portion of Court Street between Union and Washington on Saturday, August 4th, 2018 from 8 to midnight for the Bounty on the Bricks fundraiser. And this is introduced by Councilmember Katsas. Ordinance 2218 is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting to allow vending in a designated area on August 4th, 2018 during the Bounty on the Bricks fundraiser, introduced by Councilmember Katsas. Ordinance 2318 is an ordinance authorizing design engineering of the Stimson Avenue Improvements Project, number 315, introduced by Councilmember McGee. Ordinance 2418 is an ordinance amending the 2018 appropriation ordinance, amending Ordinance 153-17, authorizing Arts West renovation project 314, and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Butler. Ordinance 2518 is an ordinance amending the 2018 appropriation ordinance and is introduced by Councilmember Butler. Ordinance 2618 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to hire a new director of engineering and public works at a pay rate of 35% through the assigned pay grade. This is introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Ordinance 2718 is an ordinance granting use of the public right-of-way, authorizing the Service Safety Director to execute an electric line easement with the Ohio Power Company, AEP, to be located near East Park Drive at the municipal pool site and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Fall. Ordinance 2818 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a grant agreement with the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, known as NOPEC, in order to accept NOPEC energized community, or NEC, grants and declaring an emergency, introduced by all members of council. Ordinance 2918 is an ordinance authorizing a contract for Washington County Commissioners and declaring an emergency. And that's introduced by Councilmember Butler. We'll now move on to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 3018 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a partnership agreement with the Athens County Commissioners as applicant and grantee, if funded, for submission of an application to the Office of Community Development, Ohio Development Services Agency, ODSA, for the program year 2018. This is a Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program, what is known as CHIP program. This is introduced by Council Member Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. If you recall, we discussed this in committee meeting, and we also had a presentation by Mr. Glenn Crippen, and we were able to discuss the ability to partner with the county, and this then allows the mayor to authorize into that partnership with the county commissioners. There is a decrease in funding, as we acknowledge, and we would be looking at about $350,000 compared to in the past, which I believe was $400,000. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance 3118 is an ordinance to accept and authorize the receipt of donations to the new municipal pool, and this is introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. With this particular legislation that's being introduced, we're in a wonderful sort of precarious situation, which the mayor has been approached by community members, and we received word from the auditor as well that we can receive donations to enhance some of the pool projects. So this will allow us to provide that opportunity and progress and move forward. So the City of Athens will hereby authorize the acceptance of donations made to the new municipal pool through fundraising efforts, and there will be a specific municipal pool rec fund. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance 3218 is an ordinance amending the 2018 appropriation ordinance, and this is introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. Excuse me, my seasonal laryngitis and bronchitis is set in tonight. Ordinance 3218 has a list of various appropriations and of increases and decreases. I'm not going to be able to read through all of them. They're on our disk drive, and members of council can read them. But this is just one of those necessary things we have to do with our budget, even though it's been set, that we have to make modifications. So. Okay,
thank you. Yes, Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Isley, and thank you, Councilmember Reisner. One of the line items on this particular ordinance is acknowledgement to help proceed with funding the Athens Photographic Project. So I just wanted to acknowledge that that's one of the lines that's of many included in this. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for highlighting that.
Thank you.
Okay, Ordinance 3318 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 15117 to include the current pay grades and wage scale, introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. The copies that the council can see on their computer pertains to Section 2 of the Ordinance 15117, Section 1, which has a long paragraph. I will read the change to this ordinance. It reads, a copy of the current pay, grades, and wages is attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. And that is the major amendment to this ordinance.
Okay. And one of the things that this highlighted too is that it is for all the pay grades 1 through 12.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance 3418 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 15217, Sections 20 and 21 of the Fringe Benefits Package for non-union personnel, and this is introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. In Section 1, Paragraph 20, promotions, lateral transfers, demotions, new hires, and current employees, Section A, Part 1, under promotions, the following has been inserted into the ordinance. It reads as follows, or may be 10% higher than the rate from which the employee was promoted. And then paragraph 21, compensation, there is a change where it says, Athens City Council shall establish by ordinance salaries and compensation in pay grades 1 through 11 is struck out and is replaced by the number 12. And then following that, in Section A, it reads all non-bargaining unit employees, and the following is struck out, with the exception of the Service Safety Director, are hired into pay grade 1 through 11 that has been struck out and is now 12. Perhaps I've misread that. With the exception of the service safety director is struck out, the following is kept: are hired into pay grades 1 through, and then the number 11 is struck out and is replaced by the number 12.
Okay. Thank you. Ordinance 35.
Mr. Mayor?
Just a point of clarification for anyone who might be watching tonight, and that is that pay grade 12 is, there's only one person who's in pay grade 12, and that is the service safety director. So it's a standalone pay grade. So that's what 12 is.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance 3518 is an ordinance amending the 2018 part-time and seasonal staffing levels authorized by Ordinance 15117, introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. Section 1 reads, the 2018 part-time and seasonal staffing levels authorized by Ordinance 15117 are hereby further amended as attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. The attachment to this item is the, look at the paper copy, under Fund 101.101 Fund General Department Mayor position intern, the number has been increased from 4 to 5 with hourly rate minimum wage 2.0 above. That's the only change to this. Any comment, Mr. Mayor?
Certainly. This was mentioned in the past, but working with the city auditor, Kathy Hecht, we have kind of come to the position where we want to hire during the summer months an intern whose job is to look at the revenue and expenses over the past 10 years and help us kind of model, look at trends, do a trend analysis on that data, but also some projection analysis and moving into the future. So it'll be somebody, we're going to start interviewing individuals. We have a list of about 10 that have been brought forward to us by the College of Business on campus. This will be an undergraduate student, an advanced undergraduate student in the College of Business, and who's specialized in doing work like this. So we're excited. We'll start doing the interviews in a couple weeks and see who that person is, but this is authorizing us to bring on an extra intern over the summer.
Good. Okay. We'll now have announcements and other business. And the first one is the appointment to the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board, and I believe Councilmember Butler has a recommendation.
Thank you, President Hasley. At this moment, I'd like to make a motion to approve the mayor's appointee. So the mayor has requested for us to place Mr. Daniel Brown on the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board. We should have, council members should have a copy of his resume and abilities. Mr. Brown has his master's degree from Ohio University in biological sciences, ecology, and evolutionary biology, with a thesis study on the effects of acid mine drainage. So I think he's a wonderful selection. I want to move forward with making that motion then to approve the mayor's appointee.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of the appointment of Daniel Brown to the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board. And yes, Councilmember Katsas.
Yes, first I would like to echo what Member Butler just said. I think that Daniel Brown is a great selection for this advisory committee. I would like to have the mayor just kind of mention the process of how these people are selected, since I work with Daniel.
That isn't how I made the selection.
Yes, yeah.
No, my selection process is for a lot of people who live in the city, I've worked closely with some and have certain skill sets. I've played co-rec softball with Daniel Brown for years, and so he understands Arts, Parks, and Rec. He understands the recreation department. He's an avid cyclist who has ridden with some notable world-class cyclists in his lifetime, so he understands the bicycling world, cycling world. But he also has served on, and I don't think it's in his resume, which is unfortunate, but I'll share with you. He has served on the Hocking Edina Bike Path Committee. He's worked in that. Again, I mentioned his involvement in softball in the past and understanding that world. So it's, I reach out to people that I think have, as I mentioned, the skill sets that would really kind of flesh out some of our various boards and commissions to where I'm the appointing authority with council's approval.
And he also has, nobody's mentioned this, he has 2 young daughters, and he also is an Athens native. So I think he has a very good eye on kids, recreation, and also just what our city is. So
Great. Thanks for those additional pieces of information. That all helps. And we want to thank the people who are retiring from the advisory board because they have spent quite a few years and quite a lot of time. Is this former Mayor Abel?
Correct. Thank you, President Isley.
Convention and Visitors Bureau Page.
Page Loss, correct. Okay. Yes, thank you. And Mayor Abel, who served as the chair for a notable 6 years, and the mayor and I were just acknowledging that Mayor Abel and Ms. Loss' efforts were wildly beneficial, helpful, supportive of the recent. I'll allow the mayor to go from here.
Both were deeply involved in kind of help guide the Arts, Parks, and Recreation levy when that was brought forward. But I too want to acknowledge former Mayor Rick Abel and the director for the Athens County Convention and Visitors Bureau, Paige Allos, for their 6 years, I believe it was, in serving on the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So we have a motion, and I'm keeping track here. Do we have a second?
Second by, yes,
From
Councilmember
Okay.
Reisner.
And all those in favor for approving the appointment of Daniel Brown to the Recreation Advisory Board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Unanimous, and we welcome him and thank him in advance for all the volunteer hours. There are plenty of them. Next week will be a committee meeting night, and so do we have different committees? We have Planning and Development? That will,
Committee of the Whole.
Committee of the Whole you would like, okay.
Finance.
And do you need Service Safety?
I believe so.
Okay.
Finance and Personnel? You do? Okay. Transportation?
Transportation.
Full agenda,
Right,
okay,
yes.
for next week's meeting then. Okay, thank you. Do we have any other announcements?
I have one, President Isley.
Sure.
Something that I'd forgotten about until just now, and that is that I had a kind of a serendipitous encounter earlier today. Some of you may remember Mr. David Funk. He's the one who really kind of led the charge on rehabbing the house at 4 Dalton. Anyway, he wanted me to mention that tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the public library, the Athens Library, there is a senior housing visioning meeting that he is putting on down there. And so I thought I would share that with council and anyone who might be watching. He said it's open to anyone who wants to come and kind of think more broadly about affordable senior housing and housing options in the city of Athens.
Okay, thank you. We now have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services not covered on the agenda. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak tonight? Okay. If not, then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second for adjourning our meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? We're adjourned at 7:30 p.m.